I'd like to start this presentation or review of several important questions in religious studies and Catholic thinking in the latter part of the 20th century by talking about myself a little bit. My name is John Wilcox. I'm professor of religious studies at Manhattan College and in the second term as chair of the department. I also direct the Center for Professional Ethics, and since becoming chair, that's taken somewhat of a back seat because of the responsibilities in administration. I went to all Catholic schools throughout my formal education, from elementary school right through a master's degree at Fordham University. And my undergraduate work was done at Marist College, and I'll come back to that in particular. I also pursued graduate work at Union Theological Seminary, leading to a PhD in Christian ethics. The degree was granted in 1977. One of the most interesting questions for me is the influence on my own professional activity. And I can point to a pivotal teacher. I think it was one person who led me to become interested in religion and theology as a profession in teaching, and that was Aldo Toss, who was a theology professor at Marist College, whom I had as a teacher in 1958. And I point to him in particular because he was responsible for changing the ethos, the culture of Marist College with regard to the teaching of theology. At that time, in 1958 and 59, there was a tremendous ferment in the Catholic Church in the field of theology. And in many ways, Al Toss was one of the leaders of that in the Diocese of New York and certainly at Marist College. The other part of that, which the brothers remarked on at the time, was how he changed the spirituality of the religious community at the college by his introduction of theological thinking, and that's simply pietistic spirituality. I have to backtrack and say at that time I was a member of the religious community that sponsored Marist College, that is the Marist Brothers, and was deeply involved in the community until I left at the age of 34. I had been in the community from the time I was a teenager in high school right through profession and up until my early 30s. I also spent a year at the University of Nijmegen in the Netherlands in 1968 and 69. But to go back to the period of time of studying theology in college, I guess I would have to say it was more than Al Toss at the time. It was also the period in which I was living. It was just prior to the Vatican Council. And as I began my own high school teaching in 1962, the council was just about to begin. And that provided a context and a dynamism in the Catholic Church, which was very inviting to someone interested in religion and theology. At the same time, while teaching high school religion, I was exposed to the new catechesis that was developed at Lumen Vitae via the Jesuits at Fordham, who began a religious education program, which would be a second great influence. Some of the faculty members that I had there, particularly Miles Burke, who was a scripture scholar from Dunwoody Seminary, was very influential in my understanding of theology and Bible studies. The further question, based on background, would be what is most important to me as a Catholic scholar in this day and age. The single overriding issue for me at the present time is the continuance and development of institutions of higher learning that are related to the Catholic intellectual life. I think in the fall of 1999, Catholic institutions are at a crossroads because their relationship with the Church in the United States, the ecclesiastical structure of the Church, is at a time of transition and will be influenced strongly by the vote taken in Washington later in the month of November as to the status of Catholic institutions and their relationship with the Church. So for me, the single overriding issue is the enhancement of a Catholic ethos on Catholic campuses. This is the last chance that the Catholic Church has to influence its laity, who will indeed be leaders in the church in ways that could not even be conceived of 15 or 20 years ago. Related to that is the issue of independence within the Catholic institutions, that there is a continuance of what I would call the loose coupling between the Catholic institution of higher education and the Roman Catholic Church itself. My fear is that as the Church seeks to define this relationship very juridically, the essence of the relationship will be destroyed because the institutions, the educational institutions, will be fused with the ecclesiastical church. And I think that is very contrary to the history of theology and to the history of Catholic institutions of higher education. I think it's also indicative of a very chilly climate in the church at the present time for theological thinking and development within the Catholic tradition. It's not that anything is said explicitly on the part of the church, but that a climate has been created where a number of questions aren't even being asked because of a fear of retribution and control on the part of the ecclesiastical establishment. It's ironic that the present Pope, who is an outstanding scholar in his own right, has in some ways created a culture where the development of theology has been stunted within the Catholic Church, particularly in the United States. And I consider that to be an extremely serious challenge to the future of Catholic theology and to the credibility of the Church. Ironically, what the Pope wished for in Ex Corde Ecclesiae in terms of Catholic institutions is being diminished by the second half of the document itself, which talks about applications. And the tendency of the Roman Church to be very centralizing is very clearly demonstrated, and I think will be absolutely counterproductive to everything that has been sought by the Vatican.